All right, y'all. Here we go. So John Fetterman. Look, nobody has been a bigger disappointment than John Fetterman. Nobody. And I mean that. Because John Fetterman, when he ran for office, he portrayed himself as like, I'm just a working class guy. I'm basically the next Bernie Sanders type politician. I'm not going to play ball with the establishment. I don't care about the financial interests. I'm here to represent workers. Look at me. I'm a regular guy. I'm wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. You can trust me. This was basically his argument. Then he had a stroke and he could barely talk, but he still ended up beating Dr. Oz, who was the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. Well, ever since he's got in there, he's doing the old, let's call it the old Dave Rubin two-step, the old Tulsi Gabbard two-step. The like, I'm going to slowly but surely move to the right in a very crystal clear fashion, and then you'll look back in a year or two and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? This guy's a monster. So when he ran, he made these ads about how we're a nation of immigrants and I'm going to support immigrants. Then all of a sudden he's sounding like a Republican on that issue. But the worst issue of all was Israel. Now, to be fair, he was bought by AIPAC early on. And so he was saying, whatever you guys want my position to be, that's what my position will be. But now he's really bent over backwards and made a point of having Israel policy at the center of what he talks about day in and day out. And so here we are. He's going to be professionally dumb, but wait for it, because his conspiracy theorizing about pro-Palestine protesters is going to backfire spectacularly. You're going to love this. So first, let's go to this interview he did on Fox News, and he's going to talk about the campus protest. Let's look at this fucking genius try to work this out. Let's see if the few remaining brain cells he has functions at all.
I don't know why they seem to, I'm not even sure what they're really, protesting about. If you ask them, they're not really sure what they're really, protesting about. If you ask them, they're not really sure. They can't, and now they're not talking about ceasefires anymore.
Can you guys imagine being this embarrassingly wrong in front of the world? I'm not even sure what they're protesting about. They have it out there in written form. It is as direct and clear as humanly possible. This isn't a fucking mystery. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know, because you didn't look. Or you know, and you're just lying about it. So what do they want? They want to divest from Israel. All the respective colleges and universities, hey, divest your financial entanglements with Israel. We want nothing to do with Israel. This is exactly what happened with the anti-apartheid protest, too. That's what they were asking for. That's the first thing. The second thing is, stop the fucking genocide. Stop the genocide. Of course, by extension, U.S., stop arming and funding this genocide. That's it. That's it. That's the core of what they're doing. I don't even know what they're protesting about. Apparently, that brain damage is permanent. Apparently, it's permanent. It certainly looks like it's permanent, but we're just getting started. Here he is bragging about how I will never support conditions on Israel. Never. Never.
Like I said, I'll never support any kind of conditions on Israel during this. And again, I'm going to continue to center Hamas is responsible for all of that again then. And now, if you're going to protest on these campuses, or what they're going all across America as well too, I really can't forget that the situation right now could end right now if Hamas just surrendered and they just sent all of those hostages home again. And that's also a thing that I've been frustrated too, is now that those hostages should be really in front of the conversations about the situation in Gaza. Sending them home would really, end again all of this immediately.
So by the way, the text of the deal just came out that Hamas accepted. Sorry, I lost my headphones. The text of the deal that Hamas just accepted came out. And the deal returned every single hostage and the body of every single hostage that's dead. By the way, most of them are dead because Israel was bombing relentlessly and ended up killing some of their own people. But I digress. So they agreed to that. Hamas agreed to that. They were like, yeah, here. What did Israel do? Rejected the deal, said we're going to invade Rafah anyway. Why, John? I hope you're paying attention. Why, John? Because Israel's main goal is ethnic cleansing and genocide. By the way, the most right-wing members of the Israeli government have been screaming this from the rooftop since day one. The more moderate ones pretend like, oh yeah, we got to get the hostages back, bro. Got to get the hostages back, bro. Well, here's a deal that brings them all back. And they rejected it. They rejected it. By the way, also, he says, well, Hamas needs to surrender. There was a report that they were like, hey, if we do the 1967 borders, we'll put our guns down and ride off into the sunset. In other words, exactly what you say. But guess what? Israel says, no, we're not in favor of a two-state solution. Ever. Ever. So they don't want a one-state solution where everybody's equal and has equal rights. And they don't want a two-state solution. What do they want, John? What do they want? They want endless war. They want genocide. They want to resettle Gaza. They don't view Palestinians as human. They've all said it so many times, over and over again. There are no innocents in Gaza. This is what they say. Which leads to the main point. He says, I will never support any conditions on Israel. Never? Never. Never. Never? So, okay, let's take that to its logical conclusion. Right now, 15,000 kids have been murdered by Israel. 15,000 Palestinian kids in Gaza. What if it was 30,000, John? What if it was 90,000? What if it was 300,000? What if Israel nuked Gaza and 2.3 million civilians died? What about then? Would you support it then? I believe him when he says I wouldn't ever put conditions on them. Okay, well then let's call a spade a spade. You're like a Nazi. You're like a Nazi. Because what you're saying is I have defined Israel as correct by definition. So it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter their tactics or their strategy or their actions. They are the victim by definition. Therefore, whenever they do anything, we can justify it and rationalize it. And on the flip side of that, whenever Hamas does anything, we will justify it and rationalize it as wrong. Even if Hamas says, I agree with you, here's all the hostages. Brain damage. Brain damage. Zionist scumbag is what he is. I'm not done. So here we go. Fetterman tweets the following. Confirmed the anti-Israel astroturfing of Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now. So these are Jewish-led groups that are for Palestinian rights. And he's saying, they're funded. They're funded. This isn't genuine, organic support for an issue. They're funded from the top down. This is corruption. Paid or not, protesters should be demanding Hamas to release the hostages and surrender. So he cites this part of the Politico article. Two of the main organizers behind protests at Columbia University and on other campuses are Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now. Both are supported by the Tides Foundation, which is seeded by Democratic megadonor George Soros, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, so in other words, let me break this down for you. The implication here is these protesters aren't sincere, they're not genuine, they're not legit, they're paid hacks. They are paid by George Soros and they're astroturfed, which means it's sort of like coordinated, inauthentic behavior. Nobody's actually protesting in favor of Palestinians and against Israel. This is all paid from the top down. You ready for this? Jordan Ewell points this out. If you're going to attack Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now over tangential ties to a group linked to Soros, maybe check your own campaign contributions first. What do we have here? Oh, would you look at that? Robert Soros, Andrea Soros, Jennifer Soros, Jonathan Soros, all of these people have donated $2,900, which I believe at the time was the max, to John Fetterman. So you want to do Soros funded, inauthentic. Okay, you're the fucking same. Now, by the way, what's the reality? Ryan Grimm's reporting laid it all out there for us. This guy, John Fetterman, went directly to AIPAC, didn't want them to fund his opponent, Connor Lamb, in the Democratic primary. He said, you tell me what you want my position to be on Israel? That will be our position, and I will rep that position. And what happens? Like a good little boy, he fell in line, got a pat on the head from the Israel lobby, and started using their talking points, had them write his position, and since then he's been ride or die hard for Israel. And guess what? He's gotten a tremendous amount of money from the Israel lobby since. So you want to talk about corruption? You want to talk about corruption? You want to talk about paid hacks? I think the one who's on the side of the genocide is a much bigger issue than the ones who are anti-genocide. What a spectacular backfire. They're paid for by Soros. Really? So are you. Fuck. Like, there is no response to this. What a sick man, dude. What a sick man. I'm at the point now where I think they got some R. Kelly-like P-tape on this motherfucker. On this ogre man. Because I've never seen anybody ride this hard for a genocidal fucking freak show of an Israeli government. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.